Okay, welcome back to our crowd coding experiment. Today the live coding session will be done together with people from UK, and I like to ask Yasmin Harsop, who is the Code Week ambassador for UK, to present herself and her students.
All right, hello from Manchester. We are in Year 3 Computing Specialist Classroom, and these are my students. Hi.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much for joining the experiment. So we will do a live coding session. You already have App Inventor opened on your PC. You see what I'm doing on mine. So we will try to complete the interface of the game as we left it last time, which was on Saturday. So this is the main screen that appears on your PC, and as you can see, there is a tab here where you can find three different screens. The first one is screen 1, which is the default that shows up when you launch an application, and then you can add as many screens as you need. In this application, there are at the moment just two other screens. One is an info screen where I reported exactly what we did in the very first version, just to let people understand what we are doing and to make users aware that this is just an experiment and work in progress, because if they press play the game, almost nothing appears so far. In fact, if we go into the other screen, which is gameplay, there is just part of the interface which has been built on Saturday, and we need to complete it to make it as close as possible to the mock-up. I'm using on this small window, which is an on-top window. Actually, I'm using a tool developed by one of my students, which is called on-top replica, which allows me to have something on top on my desktop, even if the focus is on another window. So I can work on this big window here while having this on top, and this is very useful because this window here represents the mockup of the application that we are trying to build. As you know, this is a flag sorting game, meaning that our main purpose is to make a user able to tap on the flags, on the 16 flags, which are randomly positioned on a 4x4 grid, and to do it in an order which is the one proposed by the challenge. So far we just started implementing this interface, and to this purpose, we used the main two environments that App Inventor makes available. The first one is this one, which is called Designer, and allows us to drag and drop interface element into this small window, which represents the screen of a mobile device. The other panel, the other environment, is the block editor, which allows us to actually implement the functionalities associated to the interface elements which have been added on the other panel. So right now we did something which is quite preliminary, in the sense that we just defined the background color using RGB to specify the code week color, and then we initialized a couple of variables used to get the actual size of the screen, the width and height of the screen of the device that we are using, and then we did something when gameplay, which is the name of the screen, is initialized. This means that what we specified within this when statement is executed as soon as we get into this gameplay screen. What we do here is just call two procedures. One is prepare screen, which is the one which draws the interface, and the other one is place flags, which is an empty procedure because we didn't implement it so far, which will randomly place the 16 flags on the grid as soon as we have prepared the grid in the prepare screen. So what we are doing today is to complete the prepare screen. And to do so, we need to add more elements, which are visual blocks like this one, which are then composed as in a puzzle. And we take the elements from this left menu, where we find them grouped by categories. So under control, we find several blocks. Under logic, we find some others, and so on. So I will go pretty fast just because I already explained in the first part of the development how to play with App Inventor, and today we just try to finalize what we want to do. But first of all, let me also show the emulator that we have here, which is Genymotion. And to use the emulator, I can do something like this. I can build a project. Build is the way in which we can ask App Inventor to build a full-fledged APK file, so a true application to be installed on real-world Android devices. And I can either have this generated on the server and then made available through a QR code. So if you have your own Android devices, you can capture the QR code as soon as it appears on the screen, and it will lead you to a link from which you can download and install on your own Android device the APK. So this is just to show you how to do so. And here is the QR code if you want to capture it. Then once we are done with that, we press OK, and what we can do is also build it in another way, which is by saving it on the computer. So this is what I'm doing right now because I need to run it on the emulator. So I ask App Inventor to build the APK and to download it automatically on my download folder. Then I will go into my download folder where there is a lot of stuff. And there are many versions of the applications because I'm installing it on the emulator each time I need to double check what I'm doing. Right now, this is the version that I just downloaded. I drag it and drop into the emulator, and let's see what happens. So this is how the first page looks like. As you know, there is some simple animation here. So if I click on the EU mouse, it moves. Then if I go into play the game, this is the first part of the interface that I see. And if we compare it with a mockup, we easily understand that we have just implemented this first part here, and we need to implement all the rest. So let me show you how to add all the components that we need in the interface. So I reduce the mockup, I leave it here, and I go back to App Inventor and to the designer to add all the other elements. So the first elements were a panel. So this is the screen. This is a hierarchy of elements. The panel is a layout element which is a vertical arrangement that I renamed in panel. Then I put a horizontal arrangement within this panel because the panel represents all the useful area in our screen that will be used as an interface. Within this area, I placed another vertical arrangement, which is this one, as you can see, which is the header. So I forgot to rename it, and I do it right now. I rename it in header, and this is the green area that you see here. Within this green element, I added two more interface elements which are just labels. So labels are interface elements that you can take from here. I dragged and dropped labels last time, and I resized them. I changed the font color and then the background in order to make them look as close as possible to the ones in the mockup. Right now, what I need to do is to keep working below this header, and the first element that I added is a vertical space. Then, under the vertical space, I need to place this one, which is called the score bar. So the score bar has two elements which are vertically distributed, and within each of them there are also elements which are distributed horizontally. So in order to realize it, I need to add several layout elements. The first one is another vertical arrangement, which will be called score bar. So let me rename it into score bar. This is not strictly required, but it helps me understand what this element represents in the mockup of the application. Then I can change the width and say that this element has to fit its parent, which is the panel, as you can see. And then I can also add other elements which are horizontal arrangement within this vertical one. So I add a first horizontal arrangement and I make it as large as its parent, and then I add another one below this one. And once again, I make it as large as its parent. Then at this point that I have these two elements, I need for sure to resize them, but before resizing them, I want to put the labels that I need to be displayed in each of them. So notice that this represents the spacing element, okay? So this is just a space. I can make it very small just for having it take a smaller part of the screen, but then all these elements will be resized accurately using code. So notice that right now I can change the size of these elements, but I don't want to specify fixed sizes in pixels for these elements because I don't know the actual size of the screen in which this game will be played. So I want the size of the game to adapt to the actual size of the screen. And to this purpose, I will do some resizing using code in order to use proportional resizing rather than absolute number of pixels. Inside this element, which is the element corresponding to this part of the mockup, where the score will be displayed, I have to add two labels, one for saying that I'm displaying the score, and the other one to show the actual score. So these two labels have to be taken from here, where I find label, and I take two of them. So I call it so this is a label, and you see that text for label 1 appears here, and the same text appears here. So if I want to change the content of the label, I can rewrite it here, or I can dynamically change it using the code. So I can write code to dynamically change the label. In this case, I just write, oops, sorry, I just write score here, and you see that the label is changed in the interface as well. And as for the other label, which represents the actual score, I will say just 0, which is the initial score. So right now I have a label score and the label 0. Now I want this 0 to appear to the right. And to this purpose, I have to add some spacing, and I can use an empty label to add some space in between. And notice that I can just remove the text to make the label disappear from the interface, but on the other hand, I can still say that I want the label to fill in the parent, so to take all the space available in between. And in this case, I obtain the spacing effect that I wanted. So I put score and the actual score apart from each other. So this is an horizontal space. I call this one, I change the name of the label to remember what it is used for. I call it score text. And I call this one score value, while I call this label h space 1, because it is used just for spacing reasons. Then I do the same on the second row, which represents the best score. So I do exactly the same. So I take 3 labels, because this time I already know that I will need 3 to obtain this effect. I put best into this label, and I rename it into best text. I remove all the text from this label, and I make it as large as the space available. And I call it horizontal space 2. And then I write 0 in the third label, which represents the best score so far, and I rename it into best value. Okay, now I need to change the color of the text and the color of the background, as I did in the header, because I want this score bar to have the same colors as the header. So to this purpose, I go here, and I go here. So I have to select the label, not the horizontal arrangement as I did, and I have to change the color of the text to white. And then I have also to change the background color and so on. So I change everything, background color included, but as for the background color, I can just choose it to be blue in order to make the text visible. But on the other hand, the exact color will be changed in code using the background color defined, previously defined according to the code week colors. So I do the same here. I make it white. I change the color to blue. And I do it here by just changing the color. The same below. So I can change it, to white, and the background color to blue. Same here, white, blue, and same here. Okay, now I want to see the effect of what I did. So I build the project again. I wait for it to be built and downloaded on my computer. Then I open the download folder. And here is the new APK. And this time I go directly to the play the game to see the effect of what we did. And as you can see, we obtained an effect which is close to the one that we want, but not exactly, for several reasons. First of all, because we have the color which is dark blue rather than being the correct one. We have a space which is just 1 pixel, while we want it to be a little more, and so on. So we go into the block editor and try to do all the adjustments that we need. Let's go to the block editor and see what we can do within the prepare screen. So let me reduce this again. I put it here. And now I can do this. Okay, so I changed the background color, and that's it. Right now, I want to change the background color also of the other elements. So let me show you that here in the block panel, I can find all the elements that I added in the interface. And for each of these elements, by clicking on it, I find specific instructions that can be dragged and dropped here. So in this case, I throw it away because it was just to show you how to drag and drop blocks into the block editor. While right now, what I need to do is to change the background color of the new elements that we added, which are the labels. So if I go here, I find score text, and you see that the second instructions is the one that we need. Set score text, which is the name of our label, background color 2. So I take this, I put it here, and then I can copy and paste this one. Get global background color means getting the value of a global variable which was previously defined and initialized. So I have to do it for all the labels that I introduce, which are 6. Instead of repeating the entire process 6 times, I can take this and copy and paste several times, all the time that I need, and I connect these new elements to the previous ones, and then I can just change them a little bit to apply them to the other labels. So notice that all the parameters allows me to select among several elements of the same type. So this instruction here was created for a label called score text, but I can use it also for score value, for H space 1, for best text, H space 2, and for best val. So in this way, I have changed all I've changed the background of all the labels without having to redo everything, because I reused the part of the code by changing just what needed to be changed. Then I need also to change a little bit the vertical space, because the vertical space of just 1 pixel between the header and the score bar is not enough for obtaining an effect similar to the mockup. So I go into this element, which is a vertical space, and as you can see, I can set the height of this element from here. So I take it and I put it here, and then I can say which is the size that I want. I could specify an absolute number of pixels, but instead of doing so, I can even specify it as a fraction of the total height of the screen. And in particular, notice that I defined a global game h, which is a variable initialized here to 0, which represents 95% of the height of the screen, which is the area in which I want my interface to appear. So I can specify the space between the header and the score bar as a fraction of this useful space, of this useful height. So to do so, I can go into the math and take this block, which allows me to multiply two numbers. The first number that I want to multiply is the value taken by this variable. So if I if I go here and I put just the mouse over, I can obtain this, which is get global game h, which is the value, the current value taken by this variable. Another way of obtaining the same is going into the variables panel and taking it from here and then saying that the variable that we want is this one. Okay, this is exactly the same that I can do by putting the mouse over this block and then getting this. You see, it's exactly the same block. So let me get rid of both of them, and then I go back into the math and I add a fraction. This is a fraction of the entire height. So for instance, I could say 0.02, so a very small fraction. And let's see what happens.
Yeah.
We build it, and we go back here. Okay, it should appear in my download folder. Here it is. Okay, as you can see, it is looking better because it is now quite close to the mockup, to the effect that we want to achieve. Okay? Notice that the content of the label, so the text displayed where the labels are, can be changed dynamically. So these two zeros will disappear as soon as we start playing with the game because they will take the current value of the score and the current value of the base score achieved so far by the user. So those are all effects that will be implemented once we have the interface completely built, because we need also a scoring functions to be implemented before actually updating the score. Okay?
Alessandro,
Yes, please.
we will have to stop soon.
Yeah. Okay, I think that so I hope that you followed what I did, and that this was clear enough for you to keep working on it.
Many of them did, but some of them found it quite difficult because they haven't used the program before.
Okay, so what I will do right now is to stop this live session and give you the recording of it in order to allow you to redo it at a lower speed if you need to familiarize with App Inventor. And in the meantime, I will also keep working on the interface together with other people and make all the video logs available for you to rebuild it from scratch. Okay?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for joining, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Yasmin.
Bye. I don't know how to.